Continuing with going through my backlog slate from 2025, a game that I was on my radar that I finally got around to playing is Dispatch. Now, if you don't know what Dispatch is made from an independent studio, and the game can be otherwise described as an interactive movie. Keeping in line with other interactive movie games such as the Telltale series, whether it be Telltale's Batman or Telltale Back to the Future, things of that nature, other titles such as Heavy Rain or Detroit Become Human from Quantic Dreams, these games are, as by description, an interactive movie. That is the best way to describe these types of games because generally speaking, these types of games are light on gameplay but heavy on everything else. And Dispatch is no different, and it performs this masterfully. When it comes to these types of games, the number one thing that needs to stand out is the writing. And when it comes to Dispatch, the writing here is absolutely top tier and among the best narrative-driven games I've ever played in 2025. And quite frankly, it should be nominated for Best Narrative. It was absolutely fantastic. The writing here is amazing. And the one thing that also accentuates the writing is the actors' performances. The voice actors in Dispatch knock it out of the park, regardless of which character you're referring to or what moment in the story you're referring to. They knock it out of the park. So when you combine the writing and the voice acting, you are in for one heck of a treat when it comes to the game's narrative. Of course, being a movie or interactive movie, you gotta like the visual presentation. And the visual presentation of Dispatch, like the rest of the presentation, is absolutely phenomenal. It is very much an anime style, but as opposed to other titles that have come out of this ilk, Dispatch is done basically as an episodic format. There's 8 episodes accompanying this game, and basically it's like you're playing an anime TV series where you go across the 8 episodes, and every choice you make matters. That is the bread and butter of this game. Of these games is that from a user perspective and a user experience, you can get a much different outcome and different emotions as you play through the game simply because of the choices you make. With regards to the presentation, while the art style is on point, so is the musical score. The game does give you the option to use copyright-free music or copyrighted music, though I would recommend that so long as you are not streaming, use the copyrighted music, as there is a noticeable difference in quality when you use the copyrighted music as opposed to the copyright-free music. But all of these elements, when they are brought together, when you're talking about the art style, the writing, the voice actor's performance, the musical score, they will pull you in and hook you, and you will just be instantly addicted to it right away. And this is the hallmark of any of these great story-driven games, is that they require all of these elements to come together in a perfect harmony in order to capture the audience, because the weakest aspect with these games is with regards to the gameplay. It's not that the gameplay is bad per se, but it's that the gameplay is very simple. There's nothing complicated with regards to the gameplay, nor is there anything revolutionary with the gameplay. Throughout the cutscenes of the game, you will basically make choices that determine the outcomes of what transpires afterwards. Aside from making these choices during the cutscenes, there are other gameplay elements such as hacking. Throughout the game, you will hack nodes, and it's basically a little puzzle that you have to go around and hack through the system in order to complete the puzzle and move on. They're nothing complicated. However, there is challenges that happen throughout the game with regards to hacking. As the game goes through the story, the hacking becomes a little bit more sophisticated and therefore requires more thought and reaction time in order to complete them. When you're not performing hacks, as the game name implies, Dispatch, you are a dispatcher of superheroes. And basically what you do is you look at the city grid, icons will pop up with the issues that the city needs, and you will dispatch the appropriate hero for the job. And as you would want, the better success rate you have, the better your outcomes will be. If you send a hero out and the hero fails the mission, it will hurt them and hurt their progress. If you are successful in your missions, they will gain experience and level up. And as you level up characters, you will then be able to improve their stats as well as the bonds, because certain characters have bonds with other characters. So when you put those two characters that have synergy together, their success rate improves. So you're all, as a dispatcher, you're basically balancing who you're sending for what job and how you want them and who you want to pair them with. Because you could send a person out for a job that requires intellect, for example, and then another job comes out that requires even more intellect. So you don't just only want like one person in intellect or one person in strength. You want multiples because you need to spread out your options. When it comes to the dispatching aspect of the gameplay, this is the number one gameplay element that you will go through. Besides making choices during cutscenes, this is the most amount of gameplay you will be doing. You'll be sitting at your dispatch desk, dispatching heroes, and solving the crimes while simultaneously seeing how your team evolves throughout the story. And periodically, as stated, you will also have hacking sections where you have to hack through, and it's the little puzzles with nodes. And that is basically the gist of the gameplay. Making choices, hacking, and dispatching. That is your gameplay loop. Nothing with regards to the gameplay is sophisticated, as stated earlier. So if you are going into this type of game expecting great gameplay, you will be disappointed. And it doesn't mean that the game is bad. It just means that this type of game is not for you. But if you're all about an interactive movie, or in Dispatch's case, an interactive TV series, and you want to follow a great animated series with great story, writing, characters, voice actor performances, and just have a blast and get immersed, this game is the best of the best. When you think about other games of this genre, like Heavy Rain, like the Telltale Batman or Telltale games, Dispatch is right up there. So much so that there is now a demand for a season 2 of Dispatch, because that's how good this game is. After rolling the credits myself, I definitely would love to see a season 2 of Dispatch. One of the things that I do find that was very neat about Dispatch, however, is upon completing an episode, the game will give you basically the analytics of how you fared in comparison to the player base, based on telling you what percentage of players made the same decision as you, or how well you performed on the shift of Dispatch that day. Everything is statistics that will show you at the end of every episode. And then, of course, you have the option to either replay said episode to change the outcomes, or you just do a whole new playthrough from scratch to get different outcomes altogether. But it is a nice little thing that I noticed that, yes, when you complete an episode, it gives you the info of basically how you fared compared to the rest of the player base. In terms of hours spent, a full playthrough took me about roughly 8 to 9 hours on a first playthrough. It's basically an hour an episode, essentially. So it is quite easy to pace yourself. But overall, I would say that Dispatch is definitely a must play if you're looking for a simple narrative-driven experience. There's a lot, everything about this game's narrative, the presentation, the voice acting, the music is so top tier that it will pull you in. And by the time you roll the credits, I'm pretty sure you're either going to want to replay it, intentionally getting different outcomes, or you are going to be begging for a season 2 like the rest of us. I personally highly recommend Dispatch for anyone looking for a narrative-driven experience, and I'm giving Dispatch a perfect 10 out of 10. This game is definitely a masterpiece and shouldn't be missed by anyone. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.